Hi, all. Welcome to Gentle Yoga with me. Find a comfortable seat, elevated hips, maybe on a block, on a bolster, on a blanket, and begin to become aware of the sits bones pressing in to that prop. And close down the eyes gently or lower your gaze. And begin to focus on your breath. See if you can begin to slow the breath down. As you continue to draw your awareness inside. And now begin to explore your body, letting our yoga begin from the core inside point and expand outward from there. Exploring any sensations you're feeling, perhaps changing your shape to make yourself more comfortable. Legs can be in any form or shape. And just notice the sensations of the breath rolling in and out. And we'll do a little pranayama practice, just a few breaths, where we'll take the next inhale deeper into the belly, filling the abdominal cavity, and then feeling like the breath is moving up towards the collarbone, filling up towards the collarbone. As you breathe out, reverse that sensation or visualization as the breath leaves from the collarbone area all the way through the chest into the navel, where you squeeze the last bit of breath out. Softening the abdomen on the inhale, tightening it on the exhale. Fully using the diaphragm and letting the abdominal muscles soften to be able to open forward. And now resume your regular breath. And let's start to wiggle our fingers and our toes. We can flutter open our eyes. We're just moving the digits, really. We'll move the movement into the hands now, opening and closing, creating as much space with the hands as you can, and then the least space. We could start to point the toes and flex them. And with the legs in a comfortable position so that you're pressing into your sits bones, release your arms by your side and first feel the extension of your spine. Imagine the crown of your head being lifted up through a string. And then your shoulders are down away from your ears. Your hands are heavy to create this super straight spine. Next, let's start some sun breaths. We'll inhale our arms out to the side, up overhead. Let's bring the hands together right on top of the crown of the head. And then we'll exhale, the hands come down through the center, the palms still pressing until they reach the heart center. Anjali Mudra. Keep moving, sun breaths, moving through sun breaths, I should say. Letting the inhales lift the arms, and each exhale releases the arms. Paying attention to the tips of the fingers that are pressed together and the outside edges of the palm. Pulling the inside middle section of your palms away from each other, kind of cupping the hands, if you will. Nice. Just a little variation in how the hands are pressed together. But ultimately, you're exploring and doing what's best for you. The next time your hands are at your heart, go ahead and leave them there. And we're going to put our legs into a pinwheel position. You might not choose to stay up on a block, but if you have a towel or blanket underneath your hips, you can still elevate the one hip that you're on as you turn to one side and let both of the lower parts of the legs turn towards one direction. Depending on which way you are, which way you moved, because I didn't specify, you will have one knee higher than the other and one hip higher than the other. See if you can sink into the hip in this pinwheel. And let's place our hand of the back leg right by our hip. And we're going to inhale the opposite or free arm up towards the ceiling. Exhale, we're going to lean this direction. Holding on for support to that lower hand, making that contact, planting it right on the mat. Let's exhale, and we'll bring that upper arm down, bring our shoulders back up over our hips. Let's come into a twist by turning towards the back leg. Now let's orient the chest back towards the opposite leg and place our hands on the floor as we twist in the opposite direction. Drawing chin to shoulder if that's comfortable. Not doing it if you're exploring there and it's not comfortable. You'll pull back, bring the body to a comfortable position that you were just in. And that's how you explore what things in yoga work for your body and what things don't. Let's straighten our legs out here. Lean back on our hands and point our fingers away from us and just relax the arms and legs. You can even sink your chest down through your shoulders. Just notice how the back and the torso starts to relax. Back in the belly. Now on the next inhale, walk your hands towards your hips and we'll come into pinwheel on the opposite side. Chest is facing towards that front leg, the one with the hip on the floor and the knee lifted. Make sure you've got a right angle with your knee and press into that back hip. You can use your hands to support you. You could even have blocks nearby to help you. Stay, by the way, aligned because you don't want to be slouching in any direction. You don't want to injure yourself doing that. Let's put our same hand on the back leg and we'll inhale the opposite arm up and exhale, releasing, opening the rib cage on that forward side. Good. Take one more breath. Then inhale, lift the hands straight up, coming up to a stacked position with the shoulders and hips. Exhale, releasing that arm. And we're going to turn and twist towards the back knee first. And then we're going to slowly move back to center, chest and belly right in front of the forward knee. And then we're going to twist in the opposite direction, keeping our head level, drawing our chin to that back shoulder and making our eyes look beyond, back behind us. We'll bring our eyes to center, then our chin to center, then our chest to the front as we draw our legs together, stretching them out, leaning back on our hands once more, or we can bend up through the knees and do some windshield wipers just to disengage the hips, to allow the tissues to go back to their normal position. Next, let's make our way to table. And we'll begin cat-cows as soon as we get set up. And just do your cat-cows at your own pace, setting your foundation so that your body does look like a table. And then allowing the navel to tuck, the head and tailbone to drop. Navel drops, head and tailbone lifts, undulating the spine. We have done all 7 movements of the spine already, from the extension to the lateral stretches, with our legs pinwheeled, the twist with our legs pinwheeled, and now we're undulating, arching and rounding. Let's bring our spine to neutral here, and let's sway the hips one direction and the shoulder and head the opposite direction. And let's keep going back and forth, exploring again here what your body likes, where it wants to go naturally, and then where it's stopped and where you can kind of back off and not feel an intense stretch anywhere. We'll come back to center and let's have our blocks. I like to use them here to just sort of help me come up a little higher off the ground. And we're going to step the left foot forward and come into a runner's lunge. So I like to keep my heel right below the knee. So the knee isn't any more far forward than the ankle. I like to keep my upper body lifted, so you can choose whether you want the low level of block, the medium level of block, or the high level of block. And we've got the leg behind us stretched long. And from here, let's come into dragon. We're going to move the outside hand and arm to the inside. And we can begin to drop our chest and abdomen and arms and head down towards the mat on this side. Lizard is another name for this. And as the stretch in that back thigh becomes too intense, let's release back, grounding our forward heel to the floor, but lifting the toes as we straighten the knee of the leg that's in front. We can walk with our blocks to keep them more underneath the shoulders, letting your upper body find some extension here, lifting the head. Yeah, see if you can ground the hips, the legs that are, parts of the legs that are touching the heel. And then we'll come forward enough To slide that foot back in, replacing the knee on the floor, and let's sink into child's pose. Arms up overhead, heels back towards hips, any amount. You can keep your toes curled under, or you can flatten your feet, whatever is most comfortable. Take a few breaths here. Let your next inhale lift you back up to your table. And this time, grabbing the blocks again, we'll step the opposite foot forward. We'll scooch it up so that as we release our hips to the floor in that runner's lunge again, the ankle is in the right spot, right underneath the knee. Sinking the hips to the floor, yet holding ourselves up in alignment. Find the ease of gravity working with the lower part of the body, with the effort on the top half to hold ourselves up. One more breath here. And then we'll draw that outside arm in and we'll settle ourselves where it's comfortable on this side, which may very well be a different spot than the opposite side. The front knee is hugging the shoulder. Good. And from here, we'll rock the hips back, bringing the blocks with us, using them to press up away from the floor. The heel stays grounded, but the toes lift as the hips shift further back to stretch the hamstring. Find that same weight in the lower body here. Using what's touching the floor to release into the earth. That's the ease, and finding the effort with the opposing force from the pressing down. Excellent. Let's shift so that we can draw that foot back and come back onto the knee. And from here, we're going to come up into downward facing dog. So we'll move from our table to tuck under our toes, press on the feet to lift the hips up and back. Making an upside down V out of the body. Feet can be a little wider than hip distance, and heels don't really touch the ground, but we can stretch different parts of our foot and our legs by lifting and lowering the heels. That's always a comfortable thing to do. Well, not always, I shouldn't word it that way. It is a great place to explore what you can do. We can draw our chest towards our thighs, deeply bend our knees to get that back and shoulder stretch. From here, we're going to press in with one foot and draw the opposite foot up and back. Any amount, your toes could even hover just above the floor. Your hips should be squared, so try not to lift out of place the hip that is drawn back. And the way to prevent that is to let the toes come a little bit more toward the midline than the heel. So you're internally rotating. Exhale to lower that foot. Let the foot ground itself to lift the opposite one towards the ceiling. Three-legged dog. Or we can be in down dog or in table doing cat-cows. So making sure you're doing the shapes that you want and feel stable in, and you're skipping the shapes that that don't work for you. All right, let's sink down into child's pose. Take 2 breaths here. And on the next inhale, we'll pass through table and come up into either half plank or plank. Everything below the waist weighted, heavy, and everything above the waist active, working, arms tense, holding you up, sinking back into child's pose as you're ready. And we're going to do this little flow from plank or half plank to child's pose. Everybody moving at their own pace, exploring their bodies, figuring out what you can do, what you can't do, figuring out what you like, what you don't like, modifying and adjusting with a pose that you've done in another class that you liked, that would work for you in this moment. Making yoga your own. That's where the practice deepens, I think. And the next time you're back in child's pose, go ahead and stay right there. Arms above the head, chest drawn down to the floor. Knees wide or narrow, your choice. Explore what works for you in this moment. And with the next inhale, we'll come up to table and up onto our knees. If you'd like to use the blanket on the knees, that's totally fine. So we're in a high kneel. All right, let's relax our arms by our side, maybe roll our shoulders a little bit, one direction and then the opposite way. Let's inhale, both arms out and up overhead. As we exhale, we'll let one arm drop as we lean over to that side. Lower hand can come right to the side of the leg. Upper hand is right by the ear. Inhale to come straight up and down out of the sway. Exhale to release the arm. Let's inhale both arms up again. This time, opposite hand comes down, wrist rotates, and we lean over, reaching the lifted arm up over to the opposite side of the room in the sway pose. We'll inhale, come back up, exhale, relax. That arm comes down. Let's bring our hands to the backs of our hips. Interlace the fingers, bending the elbows to kind of reach back there. Then we'll extend the arms, reaching the backs of the hands, the knuckles, if you will, right towards the bottoms of the legs, rolling the shoulders back and down, opening the chest. Good. From here, let your hands release from each other. Place them back on your hips and draw the elbows together. Maybe lean your hips forward as you lift your gaze slightly. Take a few breaths here. Try to keep your elbows pressed together. Feel that broadening of the collarbone. Good. Now let's begin to come back out of that arch into a neutral spine. And we can bring our hands around to the front. One more shape in this position. We'll inhale both arms out to the side. Exhale, we'll draw the hands together and the elbows together. If you want to cross one arm over the other instead, please do. And everyone bend your elbows no matter where they are. Give yourself a hug. Let's now lift, placing the hands together, lift the lower arms, and we'll inhale. The elbow lifts, the tips of the fingers lift, and we stretch the shoulders. Exhale to release. Let the hands come down, and we'll swing them forward and back. Just let your arms kind of pump forward and back. And we'll bring our arms down by our side. Let the next inhale draw them out wide like a wing. We'll bring the hands, palms, elbows together again. You'll cross the opposite elbow if you did that the first time. We'll give ourselves a hug. Then we'll bring our hands back together, our forearms right in front of our face. The next inhale lifts the tips of the fingers, the elbows lift, we stretch, the shoulders, and then we exhale, release the shoulders and the elbows come down, and we can swing and let the arms come forward and back again. We're just kind of letting the hands and the heaviness of the hands stretch those humerus bones where they're connected in the shoulder joint. We're going to make our way to standing here next. So whether you come up through a downward facing dog or a kneel, either one is fine. Coming to the middle of the mat, finding your mountain pose. Hips squared to the front, the ankles right under the hips. You're standing tall, straight up and down. Shoulders are back on your rib cage where they're supposed to be, right? The shoulder blades. And you're pressing the four corners of your feet into the floor. Let's begin with some sun breaths just to get us to stretch our arms up overhead as we inhale. Hands come together, and we'll exhale down to Anjali Mudra. So let's keep doing these just like we did seated, noticing the shifts in the bottoms of the feet as you're moving the arms here. Everything else still. Good. Now, the next time your arms come up, lift your heels up off the mat. Let them come at their highest point when the hands come together. And then as we lower our hands and arms, we'll lower the heels until the arms are by our side and the heels touch down on the floor at exactly that moment. This takes quite a bit of balance. It's a very good challenge for all of us. See how smooth you can make the lifting and lowering of the heels match the lifting and lowering of the arms and hands. And every day is a practice. Exploring what our bodies can and can't do today. Next time your arms are down by your sides and your heels are on the floor, stand in your mountain strength. And then let's walk to the top of our mat. Let's draw one foot back behind us, coming into our warrior one legs. So that means our heel is down on the floor, back behind us. The heel's closer in than the toes, so the foot's at a diagonal in the back. Both hips, we can turn to face the long edge of the mat, and then we're going to turn back to the front and make sure our hips are facing that direction. So if you're struggling with that back leg, it might be best to draw it forward at this point. We'll bend through the forward knee. Again, keeping the knee right on top of the ankle and heel. Letting the lower leg bones press from the knee pressure into the ankle, creating that same pressure down through the ankle. Once your lower half is set up, you can bring your hands to your hips or waist or heart, or lift one or both arms up overhead. Let's do that together if you're able through an inhale, drawing the hands back as far as you can and then up. Maybe into a V, maybe bringing the arms closer to the ears, wherever you'd like to be, but it's a chest opener. So go where it feels comfortable and you can feel your chest opening. Excellent. Now let's lower our hands down by our hips. We'll bring them back behind the hips, interlace the fingers, and draw the knuckles back as we roll the shoulders back and down. Another chest opener here. Good. Release the hands, bring them back to the front, and step that back foot up to meet the left. Now let's step that same foot back and turn towards the long edge of the mat. Legs in a V, so we're in a wide angle. Let's walk the feet in and turn the toes a little bit to the outside so they're diagonal away from each other. And let's inhale the arms coming into 5-star. Let's exhale, sinking into goddess. Inhale, back up to 5-star. Limbs straighten. Exhale, knees bend, elbows bend. Hips go down toward the knees, elbows at the shoulder height, pressing down with the feet to lift up through the torso and the arms to come back to C-star or 5-star, sorry. I like to call it C-star. To goddess. We can go back and forth at our own pace, exploring, does our body like this? Where can you feel the effort? Where can you feel the ease? Next time you're in 5-star, walk your feet together and bring your arms down by your side. I'm just tapping my toes forward. You can swing your arms or do arm swings with a twist, lifting that back heel so that you're treating your vertebra more gently. Lifting that back heel as you swing your arms in the opposite direction. So you're kind of coming up onto the toes of each foot. Helps the vertebra release and relax instead of tensing them up. All right, we're back at the middle of our mat. Let's inhale the arms as if we're taking a sun breath. We'll exhale coming down into chair, sinking the hips down and back, bending the knees. The knees are forward of the ankles. We're pressing into all 4 corners of the feet. And then we'll inhale, coming up into a full body stretch. So keeping the chin level, pressing down through the 4 corners of the feet, lifting up through the fingers towards the stars. We'll release our arms down by our side, shake them out, maybe roll and scrunch our shoulders here. And then release and relax them down. Maybe do some head movements. We'll inhale a sun breath up, having the palms come together one more time, and then we'll exhale into chair. Hands can even come down to the hips, the knees, the thighs. And then we'll press down as we lift up, taking a full body stretch, reaching the fingertips up towards the sky. Now, let's step the opposite foot back, coming into our warrior one. So from the top of the mat, whatever foot you drew back last time, draw the opposite foot back. Bend through the front knee. You might want to turn to twist to the long edge of the mat with your hips and then draw them towards the short edge to help you place that back foot. Once your legs are set, you can keep your hands where they are, at your sides, on your hips, waist, heart. If you'd like to draw one arm up, you can still do this, but we'll take the back way through the shoulders to lift the arms, bringing them up to wherever is comfortable for you, pressing into the lower part of your body and lifting with the upper part of the body, creating that space through the torso. We'll relax our arms down by our sides. And now we'll open the chest some more by reaching our hands, bending through the elbows, back behind our hips, interlace the fingers, and release your palms, the back, of your knuckles rather, towards the back heel, rolling the shoulder blades back and down. Taking a deep breath here, and then releasing the hands. We'll step that back foot up, and we'll come back to facing the long edge of the mat. We'll walk the feet apart, wide angle. Then we'll bring them in so that we can set ourselves up for 5-star, lifting the arms up overhead, arms and legs in a V. Exhale to goddess. Inhale to 5-star. You're sort of doing this at your own pace, staying and breathing where it feels good. You can stay and hold it. And then let's all meet in 5-star. And we'll let the arms come down by our side. We'll walk our feet in together. And let's do arm swing twists for a few breaths here. Just letting our body slowly release. All right. We'll come back to center. Pressing down through both feet, find your mountain pose. And for one more round, let's inhale, lifting our arms up overhead, bringing our hands to our heart. Inhale the arms as we breathe in. Exhale brings the hands together and they start to descend. Anjali Mudra. Next time your hands are at your heart, let's leave them here for a breath. And let's press our thumb knuckles into our sternum. Take a few breaths in this mountain pose, standing nice and tall, grounded through the feet, lifting through the upper body. We'll release our hands and we'll walk our feet out wide, wide angle pose. Arms are down at our sides. Let's inhale, arms come up overhead. Exhale, we'll bring our hands to our heart as we pull our head, neck, and chest forward and come into a forward fold. Let your head dangle, let your hands dangle. You can keep your knees just a little bent, or you can bend them a lot. You can reach your hands to the floor to help give you support, either through the tips of the fingers or the palms of the flat hands. Whatever works best for you as you explore this wide angle forward fold. Let your next inhale draw your hands forward, lift your head, walk your fingertips away from you. Keep your hips where they are over the middle of the mat, but also in line with the feet and legs. And take a few breaths here in this extended upper body pose. Next, we'll walk or slide, moving the hands and fingers back behind us, reaching, perhaps hovering the hands and fingers, perhaps keeping them somewhat grounded. We're reaching back behind us. Now we'll walk our hands back underneath us and let's walk over to the right foot, feeling the stretch as the chest comes over to that right thigh. Hands supporting, holding you up. You can even use blocks here to help bring the floor a little closer to you, or to get a different stretch that coming up a little higher gives you that being down lower doesn't. It's all exploring what works for your body. Let's now walk our hands over to the opposite leg. The chest leaves one thigh and rotates over closer to the other. Hips stay where they were and are in between the feet. So try not to give in to stretching through one hip and moving the centering of your hips. Think of it as being off center. Taking a few more breaths here. And then walking the hands back to the middle. We'll press down through our feet, lift our spine, keeping it straight. Arms can come out to the side again and up over the head. Hands can come down to the heart in Anjali Mudra. And let's walk our feet together, or slide the feet together, move them together. And then let's walk in place, maybe lifting the knee to the height of the hips. All right, we are going to need a strap. So if you're watching live, go ahead and grab your strap now before you come back down onto the mat. If you are watching recorded, you can pause this and then go ahead and grab a strap and come back and hit play. We'll meet down on our mats. Let's go ahead and lie all the way back. It is okay to set up a blanket or towel behind your head now. You won't be doing bridge where it's not good to angle the neck. Let's bring our spine onto the mat with the strap right next to us on the floor. Let's bend up through the knees. Get our head and our body in a comfortable position, centered on the mat, arms down by our side. Let's just rest here for a moment. Maybe bring your knees together. You can walk your feet a little bit out wide to help your legs relax. Good. Now let's bring both knees into the chest and let's wrap the arms around the legs. Notice how the weight of your knees coming towards your chest kind of rounds out the spine at the back, or flattens it anyway. And the sacrum is grounded. The hips are not lifted. The hands are holding or supporting the legs. And we can rock back and forth from here. Rocking onto one elbow, Pressing ourselves off that elbow, rocking onto the opposite side, and pressing up off of that side to get away from the floor. Let's come back to center and we'll release our feet to the floor, straighten our legs, arms come down by our side, and the next inhale draws the arms up and back over the head. Let your neck be long here. See if you can bring your chin to how it feels in a comfortable standing position. Full body stretch here. Shoulders flat on the mat, flat on the earth. And then we'll bring our arms down by our side. Let's inhale the arms back behind us and up overhead for another full body stretch. And then we're going to walk hands and feet over to the left, coming into Banana Asana. So we'll walk the hands and feet as much over to the left as possible till we're really opening the side of the body that is where the hands and feet have walked away from. Okay? We're making a little crescent moon. We can cross over a leg, an ankle, and then place one palm in the opposite hand. The limbs that should be on top are the opening side. The other side of the body is constricting as the hip and shoulders are drawn towards one another. Shoulder is drawn towards one another. Let's now come back to the center. Arms are still up overhead, and we'll walk the opposite direction. We'll change the position of the leg and hand, opening the opposite side. One shoulder and one hip is drawn together. One shoulder and one hip is drawn apart. Try to press into the floor with all the parts of your body. Let's go back to center with our hands and feet and bring our arms down by our side and walk our feet up onto the mat. Grabbing the strap next to you, find the middle, hold each end of the strap in a hand, draw one knee toward your chest, and then extend that foot into the air with the strap right underneath where the toes are. You want to lower your elbows to the floor so that your cups of the arms are grounded with the shoulders and the elbows. The foot that's lifted, the heel's right over the hip. Let's inhale, try to lengthen and straighten the leg as much as possible, keeping your sacrum grounded into the floor. As you exhale, draw the leg toward you. Figure out if the lower leg needs to be bent towards the sky or whether you'd like it to be straight and long on the mat. And you can go ahead and press through the heel if you choose to keep your knee mostly straight. And you're just drawing this leg toward you. Minimal effort with the hands. The next inhale brings the heel back up over the hip. We'll change the strap to the hand that's the leg is on. The lifted leg is on. Let's exhale, opening the hip. The foot comes out to the side. And we're going to make our arm elbow bend so that we do not lift the opposite hip up off the floor. That would not give us the stretch we're looking for here. Take a couple of breaths here. On the next inhale, draw the leg and the foot back up over the sacrum, over the hip. And let's bring both hands to the strap and apply a little pressure to the strap so that you can feel the head of the femur pressing more deeply into the hip joint. Next, let's exhale and let the foot come a little bit over to the midline, maybe a tad bit beyond. But we are staying with our hips squared, our shoulders and chest squared to the ground. One more breath. We'll bring our leg back up directly over the hip, bend through that knee, release the strap, and let's come into windshield wipers for a few breaths, lowering and lifting the knees as we rock back and forth on our hips. Next time the knees are lifted, both feet are pressing into the floor. We'll lift the opposite knee to the chest so we can wrap the strap around that foot. We'll relax our arms on the floor, holding onto the strap with each end. Legs stacked directly over the hips, sacrum grounded. Let's inhale, lengthening the foot, lengthening up through the leg. Exhale, bring this foot toward you. Hamstring stretch. Again, arms doing minimal effort. The lifted foot mostly relaxed. Gentle stretch happening in the back of the leg. You could straighten the foot that's on the ground. And then let your next inhale bring the heel up. Change the strap to the hand on that side. And exhale, opening that foot and leg. Keeping the opposite side of you grounded. Using that bent elbow to keep the torso squared towards the sky. One more breath, and we'll let the next inhale lift the foot towards the stars. We'll take the strap into both hands and just create a heaviness there. Feel the head of this femur deepening inside the hip. And then let the next exhale draw the leg in towards the midline. It's a small, subtle movement. Maybe we couldn't even see it if we were looking at you. One more breath here. And then we'll let our heel come up over our hip again. We'll bend down through that knee, release the strap, and let's come back into windshield wipers. We can bring our arms out to the side, or we can come into cactus arms, creating that open chest again here. Again, giving our hips a massage as the knees sway from left to right. Next time the knees are straight up and down, let's come into a reclined twist really quickly. Two knees drop to the side. We're going to extend our arms out wide like wings. Bring the chin to the opposite shoulder from the knees. And then let's switch, go into the twist on the opposite side. Moving head to rest on the opposite ear. Knees go to the opposite side. From here, let's go into student choice. Whatever it is you'd like to do, happy baby, maybe some knee circles, maybe give your feet some love by wiggling the toes, pointing and flexing the feet, circling the ankles. Whatever it is you'd like to do, whatever your body is craving for you, to give it that stretch, or perhaps do one more strengthening pose. You might want to come into bridge if you move any prop underneath your head. Just make sure your spine is totally flat as you're lifting and lowering the head flat on the mat. And as you're ready, go ahead and find your Shavasana shape, stretching arms and legs out. Hands can be overhead, wide like wings, by your sides, up on your torso, wherever you'd like them to be so that you're 100% comfortable. Scanning the body to make sure the way everything is situated works for every other part of the body. We're all connected. Everything in us connects. And as soon as you've found your spot, begin to surrender. Begin to release. Begin to become weighted. The earth literally holding you up here. Grateful for the opportunity to deepen our practice together today. Let your mind begin to focus on your breath once more. Notice the tissues in the body slowly letting go. See if you can relax your hands and feet as much as possible. Relax wrists and ankles. Relax lower legs and forearms. Relax knees and elbows. Relax upper arms and femurs. Relax hips. Relax abdomen. Relax the chest and shoulders. Relax the head. Maybe rock the head from left to right. Come back to the middle. Extend the crown of the head away from the shoulder carriage. And sink again. Connecting here, body and mind through the breath. As you take your next inhale, begin to rock your head from left to right. Bringing it back to center and over to the opposite side a few times, slowly. We'll bring our chin back to center and roll over onto one side, stacking our hips and shoulders before we press up away from the floor. We'll bring ourselves to a seated position, perhaps elevate hips, drawing legs into a comfortable shape. Relaxing our arms down by our side as we lift our spine away from our sits bones. Let the next inhale lift your arms up overhead. Bring the hands together, palms touching. Exhale, we'll relax into Anjali Mudra, closing down the eyes and drawing our chin towards our chest to bow to the divine being that is in each of us. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Let the next inhale lift the chin. Opening the eyes, you can release your hands. And thank you so much for joining me today for this gentle practice. And I hope to see you next week. Take care.